everybody and welcome to Review Reviews, back with a Hong Kong content review, continuing on with the Wong Kar-Wai series. We're at number 5 in his filmography at the moment. The last film was Ashes of Time. This one is Fallen Angel, and this one's been a very exciting one to check out because it has a really big reputation within the Hong Kong community and is definitely one of the favourites for a lot of Hong Kong fans. This is an extension of Chungking Express, which has been mentioned a few times now by the director, as mentioned in interviews and just from people who know about the movie itself. It was a first story that was meant to be involved in Chungking Express, but decided to become as a separate solo movie, and actually works well as a conjunction film alongside Chungking Express, with Chungking Express being a day kind of film, a kind of light, happy kind of, experience. While Fallen Angel is all about the nighttime life, the youth, the kind of grungy kind of nature, the neon lights, the kind of the city life nature of Hong Kong. So the two opposite ends of the scale. Let's talk about and dive into Fallen Angel.
Scream, bury your doubts and fall asleep, for neither ever nor never. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Fallen Angel was released in 1995. This is 1 year after making Chungking Express and Ashes of Time. Very busy man who went straight into this project, who wanted a little bit more of that taste from that kind of Chungking Express experience. As mentioned in my kind of intro, he definitely has a flavour with that kind of style, and he definitely had those ideas in his mind. Considering that was kind of on the fly type movie, he kind of just did it one production, and you can tell he had left ideas from that. And it's interesting to see his kind of process work in terms of his filmography, in terms of I have a set plan based movies kind of thing. With Days of Being Wild was set to be like a two-parter initially, and they kind of run out of financing, so they had to kind of wrap the film up to a certain way, and making these movies kind of just as an experience and just having an idea of a character or a mood in mind or a setting or a type of scenario that they can place these characters in is really fascinating. I don't think I've seen a filmmaker quite like Wong Kar-Wai who can just do that. Just hey, look, I've got an idea, let's just go with it, go. And Fallen Angels is definitely no different from his previous films. It's absolutely fantastic. This is definitely a lot stronger experience than Ashes of Time was. Ashes of Time was a bit of a misfire, it was a bit kind of all over the place, and I think he got a little bit too self-indulgent, a little bit too ambitious with that one. This one falls much more in his line of his wheelhouse, and definitely experiments with ideas and a different side of kind of characters that we haven't seen to this point. All of his characters have been very much middle-aged people, been very much kind of very adult themes, jobs, careers, kind of regret. This one is all about the youth, all about kind of like experiencing kind of nighttime life within Hong Kong and experiencing kind of a modern day kind of setting within the 90s, of course. And similar to his previous films in Days of Being Wild and As Tears Go By and Chungking Express, obviously, this is about a bunch of series of characters all in the kind of the nighttime life of Hong Kong City. This film has this kind of dreamy, kind of floaty type of nature towards it. The cinematography is very much on point, very fantastic. It's kind of got this wide angle lens. It kind of shows kind of like sequences very differently compared to what I've seen before. We have our only returning actor, Keshi Karashiro, who is a character within Chungking Express. He played a cop character. He had a very small, limited role, as mentioned in my previous review, who kind of belonged for love, and he had kind of fancy this kind of woman who wear a blonde wig and glasses, and he was a cop, she was a criminal, and it kind of didn't have a conclusion, didn't kind of work out. This is almost an extension of that, even though they are essentially a different character. Weirdly enough though, in the film they have the exact same name, they have some similar kind of connections with the cop number and the prison number he has being the exact same as well. He's a mute character in this one, and his reference to these kind of expired pineapple cans that he eats and kind of becomes mute because of it, and has a direct reference to this idea of expired time. This one, and he has a really fantastic kind of character arc. He's very weird, he's very strange, he's very aggressive for the first portion of the film. He's someone who's kind of forcing people to do things, and what people are not really fighting back because he's mute or because he's likable. It's very hard to understand. And he gets wrapped up in different kind of scenarios. Even though he doesn't say a single word of dialogue throughout the entire film, his performance, his expressions, his kind of on-screen presence is absolutely fantastic, and he has a lot of interactions, a lot to do. There's a beautiful section between him and his dad. He's filming him kind of thing, and that kind of ends in a certain specific way, and the music, the choices in terms of the editing and how they want to reflect that kind of relationship between him and his dad, who is a hotel owner. He has a longing love for a woman who is very much in a crisis of her own. She's kind of very aggressive. She's kind of calling up his people. Especially the specific woman who's blondie called, and hates her, and giving these very violent kind of voicemails, and that doesn't end in a certain way as well. It's this similar themes that Wong Kar-Wai likes to dive into, this idea of belonging, love, loneliness, find your place in the world. And he's very much someone who's acts like a child, and he goes through his kind of expressions. He sees himself as a boy until up to a certain point where he feels like, oh, maybe I need to grow up, maybe I need to stop doing certain kind of stupid decisions and actually become a bit more of an adult. And he makes some choices later on, and his kind of character arc is so random and strange and odd, and his interactions with so many different random characters. It's a very unusual kind of storyline for a main character, but it works really well, and it has a really good cap-off kind of end to him. I won't say too much about it, but I really like how the ending conclusion wraps up towards another character arc within the film, which also is a bit of a crisis itself. Someone who is a partnership with this kind of professional kind of hitman for hire. Again, very young characters. All these characters in these films are a selection of very young youth kind of characters, early 20s, the kind of the youth nighttime life, and how these characters, what they're doing up to a kind of 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning kind of thing. And we have a contract killer, we have our kind of John Woo-esque kind of thriller aspect, which is great. It kind of reminds me a little bit of that kind of As Tears Go By, and he has a really very small action set moment in the portion. It's very stylized, it's very kind of quick cut kind of thing, but you can see all the action very clearly. You can see all the kind of aggression, the violence, the anger this character's doing. He kind of sees himself as someone who's a professional hitman for hire. He kind of talks about this kind of has monologues in his kind of mind about the ideas of he goes months without kind of having to kill anyone, and you think it's about, you think I'll be rich, but not really. How much is a life worth in the sense, and he's going bit by bit kind of thing. There's a really interesting kind of section where he's on a buzz, and he has a kind of an old college roommate who basically sells life insurance, and he's in himself kind of joking and having a laugh to himself, like the idea of I wonder if he would put insurance for a hitman. I don't think he would. And this idea, he gets a picture in his wallet about a wife and a child, where he just paid these people just to kind of have it in his wallet, so when people ask him what he does for a living, he can just open up his wallet and just kind of show a business card. He can show a wife, he can show a kid. I think that's quite interesting. I think that's a very deliberate life choice. It's someone who's very committed to his kind of work and very committed to his kind of lifestyle, and even some of the dialogue he says early portion of the film, and that's reflected back towards the end as well, is this idea of I'm a very lazy person. I don't want to make decisions, and life and death, people going to die. It's already been predetermined. He sees the world as everything's already predetermined, and I'm just going with the flow. If it's their night to die, they will die. If it's my night to die, then I guess I will die. So he's going with the flow with it, which is kind of a really sad kind of way of looking about professional kind of hitman kind of route, in a sense, especially how young he is as well. But his life is very much his own, and he likes his own decisions. He likes to go out in his own way, and I think that's someone who is, got into this kind of lifestyle, but is comfortable with the decisions he's made. And he has a good portion of the film dedicated to him, between kind of he has two sort of love interest characters that are very infatuated with him. So there's a partner that is a business relationship, but also gets romantically involved, and that has a really unique kind of setup and a style, with a bar sequence and a series of kind of music, the choices that are played. This idea of kind of play a 1818 track on the jukebox, and that's kind of a message to her about how he feels. And this idea of he doesn't want connections, he doesn't really want to, he just wants a bit of company. He doesn't want to have a romantic relationship with anyone. But this young woman does fancy him and does want to be with him, and maybe sees a life with him in a weird way outside of this kind of professional business manner. Funny enough, all the characters for all the films are struggling with this idea of connection and love and placement in the world. Overall, my thoughts and opinions on Fallen Angels is simply fantastic, absolutely phenomenal. This was a really fantastic film, very much in line with these previous movies. Despite the fact that actually the time was a bit of a misfire, this feels more like in his line of work, more like in his wheelhouse. Again, doing something quite different, even though it's an extension of his previous movies. It definitely falls in line with Days of Being Wild and especially Drunken Express, as mentioned. But it definitely takes a different bite of the apple in the sense, you're getting the youth this time around. The violence, the kind of the way the camera is used in terms of cinematography, the music choices is very different this time around compared to its previous films. Performance is absolutely brilliant. I think the kind of the talking points with all these different individual characters and how big of a screen time, how little of a screen time they get, the actions, some characters don't even say anything. It's just all expression. I think is really interesting. I think it's a fantastic kind of viewpoint within a time and a place within the late 90s, within the kind of, Hong Kong youth, the locations used, the kind of the mood that's placed, in terms of the color grading and the wide angle lens, the neon lights. That's been my thoughts and opinions on Fallen Angels, guys. What are your thoughts? Please comment down below. What is your favorite Wong Kar movie out of the kind of the 5 mentioned so far? How would you rank them? We'd love to know your thoughts and opinions, guys. Please comment down below. So in the meantime, guys, Amphlett Reviews, signing out.